It was a cold Tuesday in late November, the kind of day when the rain never really stops, just changes its rhythm against the window. My name is Marilyn Tate, and for the past 40 years this small bookstore Tate's Corner Books has been my world. It used to be ours, mine and my husband Paul's, before his heart gave out one ordinary Thursday morning. Since then, the shop has been too quiet, and the rooms above it too big. My son Caleb hasn't spoken to me in almost 2 years. He walked away after Paul's funeral and never looked back. That afternoon I was behind the counter going over the accounts that never balanced when the bell above the door rang. A girl stepped in, 16, maybe 17, thin and pale, her jeans torn at the knees, her backpack worn to threads. She stood just inside the door, dripping rainwater onto the old floorboards, clutching the straps of her bag like they were the only thing keeping her standing. "Are you hiring?" she asked, her voice soft, hesitant. I should have said no. I barely made enough to keep the lights on, and the last thing I needed was another responsibility. But when I looked up, something stopped me. There was something in her face, something I couldn't name yet, a familiarity that made my heart stutter. "What's your name?" I asked. "Hannah. Hannah Cooper." The name echoed through the years like a bell struck underwater. Cooper. I knew that name. I had heard it once before, 17 years ago, when my son still smiled easily and came home for dinner. The girl stood there waiting for my answer, eyes full of quiet hope. "Maybe," I said finally, "maybe I am." The name lingered in my mind long after Hannah left that day. Cooper. I hadn't heard it in years, but it brought with it a flood of memories I thought I had buried. Laura Cooper. 17 summers ago, she used to come into this very store, always with a book in her hand and that nervous excitement of first love glowing in her eyes. She wasn't here for the books, though not really. She was here for Caleb. They would sit in the poetry corner together, reading out loud, pretending not to notice that I was watching from behind the counter. Laura had a gentle way about her, soft-spoken, a little shy. Then, one day she stopped coming. Caleb said she'd gone back to her hometown, that things had ended. He brushed it off easily, as if it hadn't mattered, but I saw the way he avoided her name after that. Something about it never sat right with me. And now, all these years later, a girl named Hannah Cooper had walked into my store, 16, with that same shape of the eyes, the same small dimple when she smiled. The math lined up too neatly to ignore. Caleb would have been 21 then, 17 years ago. I tried to push the thought away. It was too far-fetched, too painful to even consider. Still, I couldn't shake it. The next morning Hannah came back right on time. She asked again if I was hiring. This time I said yes. I told her she could help with shelving and inventory, and maybe keep an eye on the register when I was busy. Her shoulders relaxed, the kind of relief that only comes from someone who hasn't heard yes in a long time. That evening, as she tidied the poetry section, I caught her humming softly the same tune Laura used to hum. My heart tightened. I didn't know who Hannah really was yet, but deep down I felt I was about to find out. Hannah learned quickly. By the end of the first week, she already knew where every genre belonged, how to handle the register, and which regulars liked to talk about the books they never bought. She had a quiet patience about her, a stillness that felt older than her age. When she smiled, it was small and careful, like someone afraid the world might take it back. During a slow afternoon, I asked her where she was staying. She hesitated before answering, eyes fixed on the floor. "There's a shelter 2 blocks over," she said. "It's not bad, just loud." I offered her a couch in the back office. It wasn't much, a faded old thing that sagged in the middle, but it was warm, and it was safe. She refused at first, embarrassed, but when the rain started pouring harder that evening, she gave in. I made her tea, the same kind I used to make for Caleb when he was little. Over the next few days we fell into a rhythm. Mornings were for coffee and unpacking deliveries, afternoons for shelving, evenings for quiet conversation and the soft hum of rain outside. One night I found her sitting cross-legged on the floor, a notebook open on her knees. She was writing something, then crossing it out. "What are you working on?" I asked. "Stories," she said, closing the notebook. "It's stupid." "It's not stupid," I told her. "Books have saved me more than once." She smiled, just barely. Then, after a long pause, she said, "My mom used to read to me when I was little. Before things got bad, she'd read poetry out loud. I think that's why I love books." "What happened?" I asked gently. Her voice grew quiet. Drugs. She got sick. I found her when she died. I was 12. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there with her in the silence. For the first time in years, I felt less alone. She had lost a mother. I had lost a husband and a son. Two people adrift, finding a strange kind of peace among dusty books and second chances. The idea came to me late one night after closing. I was sitting at the counter, the store silent except for the ticking of the old wall clock. The thought had been whispering at the edge of my mind for days, and I finally stopped trying to ignore it. What if Hannah really was Caleb's daughter? I didn't want to ask outright. It would scare her, maybe even drive her away. But there was another way. I'd seen those DNA ancestry kits advertised online, the ones people used to trace their roots. It sounded harmless enough, at least on the surface. The next morning I ordered 2. When they arrived 3 days later, I waited until Hannah was shelving new arrivals before bringing them out. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "I ordered one of those ancestry kits. They sent me 2 by mistake. Want to try it with me?" Her eyes brightened. "Really? That sounds fun. I've always wondered where my family came from. My mom didn't talk about it much." "Could be interesting," I said. "You might find out something new." We followed the instructions together, swabbing our cheeks, sealing the tubes, and packaging them up. Hannah laughed when she nearly dropped her sample on the counter. I laughed too, but inside my hands were shaking. When we mailed the envelopes that afternoon, the wind was sharp and cold. Hannah asked how long it would take. 3 weeks, I said, maybe 4. That's forever. Good things take time, I told her. The next 21 days felt endless. We kept busy inventory, customers restocking, but part of me was always waiting, refreshing my email too often, imagining what I would do if I was right. When the results finally arrived, I opened them alone at the counter, my breath caught in my throat. Grandparent match, Hannah Cooper. I sank into the chair, tears spilling before I could stop them. I had a granddaughter and she'd walk straight into my life. I stared at the printed DNA results for a long time before deciding what to do. The words on the page were undeniable, yet my mind still tried to question them. Grandparent match. There it was, in black and white. Hannah was Caleb's daughter, my granddaughter. That night I barely slept. By morning I had made up my mind. I needed to talk to Caleb. He answered my call on the 3rd ring, his tone clipped and impatient. "Mom, I'm in the middle of something." "I need you to come to the bookstore," I said. "It's important." "What is it?" "Not on the phone. Please, Caleb." He sighed heavily. "Fine. 4 o'clock. All day I rehearsed what I would say, how I'd tell him the truth without losing my temper. Hannah spent most of the afternoon in the back office reading. She didn't know what was coming. At exactly 4, the door opened. Caleb walked in same expensive coat, same expression that made him look like a stranger wearing my son's face. "Mom," he said, glancing around the store, "what's this about?" "Sit down." He didn't. He folded his arms, waiting. 17 years ago I began. You dated a girl named Laura Cooper." His eyes flickered, but he stayed quiet. "She had a daughter, Caleb. Her name is Hannah. She's 16, and she's your child." He laughed once, sharp and cold. "That's impossible." "It's not. I have proof." I handed him the DNA report. He scanned it quickly, then dropped it on the counter. "You tested some random girl without telling me? You've lost your mind?" "She's not random," I said, my voice breaking. "She's Laura's daughter, your daughter." He shook his head. "Laura told me she was pregnant. I told her I wasn't ready to be a father. She made her choice." The words sliced through me. From the back room, the door creaked open. Hannah stood there, pale and trembling. She had heard everything. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew about me." Caleb looked away. "And you just walked away?" He had no answer, only silence. Then he turned and left, the door slamming behind him. Hannah's eyes filled with tears. "He doesn't want me." I pulled her into my arms. "Then he doesn't deserve you." After that day, the air in the bookstore felt different, quieter, heavier, but not hopeless. Hannah didn't talk much that week, though she never missed a shift. She showed up early, worked hard, and kept her emotions neatly tucked away like books on a shelf. One night I found her sitting on the couch in the back office, knees pulled to her chest, staring out the window. You don't have to stay, I said softly. She turned toward me, her face streaked with dried tears. Where would I go? Here, I said. You can stay here as long as you need. You're family now. Her lower lip trembled. You don't even know me. I know enough, I said, and that's all that matters. That night, she moved her few belongings upstairs into the spare bedroom, what used to be Paul's office. I found a comforter that still smelled faintly of cedar and tucked it around her as she slept. The next morning, she came downstairs early. Do you still want me to work here? She asked. I want you here, I said. Work can wait. She smiled for the first time in days. Over the next months, we built something new. She took night classes to finish high school while helping me during the day. I watched her confidence grow, her laughter return. One afternoon, she suggested an idea, hosting a small reading group for kids from the local shelter. Some of them love books, she said, but they never get to talk about them. And so the book club for lost kids was born. Every Saturday, the store filled with voices again, young, curious, alive. The shelves seemed to breathe easier. The space that had once been haunted by loss now hummed with warmth. For the first time in years, Tate's Corner Books felt like home again. The years passed quietly, marked by the turning of pages and the steady rhythm of our new life. Hannah finished high school, then community college, all while working in the shop. She had grown taller, her posture straighter, her eyes brighter. There was something steady in her now, a kind of strength she had earned the hard way. She still carried her old notebook everywhere, scribbling between customers or during lunch breaks. Sometimes I'd catch her lost in thought, pen hovering above the page, the world around her fading until I spoke her name. One evening I asked, "What do you write about?" She hesitated. Mostly stories about people who lose things, and how they find them again. That sounds like a book one read, I said. Her face lit up a little. Maybe one day. That one day came sooner than I expected. At 21, Hannah handed me a thick stack of pages held together with a binder clip. I finished it, she said, voice trembling. I stared at it, stunned. You wrote a whole novel. She nodded. It's called The Street of Quiet Hearts. It's kind of about us. That night, I read every word. It was beautiful and raw and filled with pain and hope woven together like threads of the same cloth. When I finished, I went to her room and found her pacing. It's good, she asked, almost afraid of the answer. It's more than good, I said. It's honest, and that's rare. Her eyes filled with tears. You really think so? I know so. Months later, her book was published by a small press. The launch was held right here, at Tate's Corner Books. I watched her stand in front of a small crowd, signing copies, smiling for photos, thanking people who had once walked past her on the street without seeing her. When she handed me my copy, I opened it to the first page. The dedication read, "For Marilyn Tate, who gave me a home and a story." I pressed the book to my chest and whispered, "You gave me one too." Fame arrived quietly, the way dawn creeps in through the blinds. A few interviews, a newspaper article, and then one morning Hannah's face appeared on the local news. From homeless teen to published author, the headline read. I was proud, so proud, but a knot formed in my stomach the moment I saw her full name printed beneath the photo, Hannah Cooper Tate. 2 days later it happened. Hannah's phone buzzed while she was restocking the poetry shelf. She froze, staring at the screen. "What is it?" I asked. Her voice barely came out. "It's him." I didn't need to ask who. She read the message aloud. "Hi, Hannah. It's Caleb Tate. I know this is sudden, but I've thought about you every day since Mom told me the truth. I was young and scared. I'd like to meet you if you're willing. I'm so sorry." I felt my chest tighten. The same man who had walked out without a glance now wanted back in after the world learned who she was. "Don't answer him," I said. "He's only reaching out because you're successful now." Hannah frowned. "You don't know that. Maybe he really changed." "I do know," I said quietly. "People like Caleb don't come back for love, they come back for attention." She slipped her phone into her pocket. Maybe everyone deserves a second chance. I wanted to argue, but I saw the hope flickering in her eyes, the same fragile hope she'd carried since the day she learned who he was. That week she agreed to meet him for coffee. When she came home that night, her cheeks were flushed, her voice bright. "He was so kind, Marilyn. He said he regrets everything." I forced a smile, but my heart whispered a truth she wasn't ready to hear yet. regret isn't the same as love. Weeks passed and Caleb became a regular presence again. At first, it was harmless coffee once a week, then dinner, then weekend lunches. Hannah would come home glowing, full of stories about her dad. She wanted me to be happy for her, but each new visit filled me with dread. Then one evening she mentioned something that made my blood run cold. "He has this amazing new business idea," she said. "A subscription model for rare book lovers. He says he just needs investors." I didn't have to ask how much he wanted. "Hannah," I said carefully, "don't give him a cent." She frowned. "You're judging him again. He's different now." "No," I said, "he's rehearsed." She glared at me. "You just can't stand the idea that he's trying." I let it go for the moment, but that night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, remembering his words from years ago. She made her choice. The next morning I made mine. I called Caleb. "Come to the bookstore at 4, I told him. "It's about Hannah." He hesitated. "What about her?" "You'll see." At 3:45, I told Hannah to wait in the back office. "Please," I said, "just listen." She didn't understand but agreed. When Caleb arrived, he looked around the store with that same calculating glint in his eyes. "I'll make this simple," I said. "I'll sell this store $500,000. It's yours on one condition: you disappear from Hannah's life forever." He blinked, then smiled slowly. "Deal." Behind the door, Hannah gasped. I stared at him. "You didn't even hesitate." He shrugged. "She'll get over it. She always does." The door creaked open. Hannah stepped out, tears streaming down her face. "Get out," she said, "and don't ever come back." Caleb didn't say a word. He just grabbed his coat and walked out, the bell above the door chiming one last time as it closed behind him. The silence that followed was thick, but not empty. Hannah stood frozen for a moment, trembling, before she turned toward me. "You were right," she whispered. I went to her and wrapped my arms around her. I wish I hadn't been. She sobbed quietly against my shoulder. "I wanted him to love me." "I know," I said, "but love doesn't walk away that easily." That night we locked the door early and sat together in the back office. I brewed 2 cups of tea, the same blend I used to share with Paul. The store was warm and still, the shelves heavy with stories of heartbreak and redemption. It felt fitting somehow. Months passed and the pain softened, replaced by something steadier peace. Hannah threw herself into writing again, and Tate's Corner books thrived like never before. The book club for lost kids grew, welcoming more young readers every week. Years later, Hannah's 3rd novel made the New York Times bestseller list. We celebrated the way we always did, with takeout and laughter between the shelves. On the dedication page she had written, "For Marilyn Tate, who taught me that family isn't something you find, it's something you build." Now, at 74, I still open the store every morning. The air smells of paper and coffee, and sometimes, when the sunlight hits the dust just right, I swear I can see Paul smiling in the corner. Hannah visits often. We still have our tea by the window, watching the world go by, grateful for the quiet miracle that began the day she walked through that door.